He's got some other players. I like the little move with Brandon Cooks. I'm not looking for him to be the number one there, but I think that he will add to the receiver room. Definitely some leadership there. So.
Okay, that's great. And since Pags didn't show up in his living room, he showed up in his Philly room. I decided to go into my living room. Pags, did you hear any rumblings about this? I know you were chiming in a little bit.
Uh, no, because it doesn't really matter to me what happens in New Orleans, especially since it's not going to really matter whatever happens right now. Like I said, I think that they are 2 years away from being able to become relevant. I think that this is, yeah, I got to imagine, like, you can't, in the midst of everything else that's going on, you can't start having what are we going to do for a quarterback? And I think that that's really what drove this. The fact that he wanted to seek a trade, well, yeah, because he stunk, and I want to get the stink off of me, so let's go somewhere else, and think that I'm going to start somewhere. I don't think that he's good enough. He would have wound up being a backup somewhere. So I think he realized that too, and he's like, "Listen, this is the only chance I got to be a starter. I have to do everything I can to show that I am better than what I have been, and this is going to be my best shot here rather than go anywhere else."
Yes, and hello, Abigail. Thanks for joining us this morning. Strilla, do you concur with that?
I mean, I still have a feeling that, and I know JTRAIN probably will have a difference of opinion on about at least Shedeur might fall down to the Saints. You never know, and it might be something that they're hoping for. Because Derek Carr did not have a good season last. What you got to actually be playing to have a bad or a good season. To tell you the truth, he didn't finish the season. So, I mean, Derek Carr's really been not the greatest since he left the Raiders. I don't know. I mean, New Orleans is going through the transformation. I'm sure that if they have a better coaching staff there, it'll be better for the team. But we just got to see.
Yeah, that's what I did too. And hello, Brent. Thank you so much for joining. I think that's one of Strilla's guys, Brent.
Yeah, what up, Brent?
Good to have you on this morning. Yeah, I mean, as a fellow NFC South contender, I really don't have too much to add to that because the Panthers have their own situation. It's not like we are romping the South. But I will add to the quarterback woes that apparently are in New Orleans. It's been reported that Baker Mayfield is not expected to continue on the trajectory he's been with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've seen Baker in true Baker form have one good season and then a lull, one good season and then a lull, one good season and then a lull, where they're predicting him to have that not good season. And in fact, this is not me as a fan speaking. This is just the reports and Pags. If you've heard this or Strilla or even you, JTRAIN, you can feel free to plug in. The Panthers are projected to make a solid run for the South this next coming season.
All right. All right. I understand that they are trying to figure out how to create a little bit of excitement in Carolina. I mean, I get it. I understand. Hey, listen, let's create a story that fits our narrative well enough by saying
it's a fairy tale. Come on, Peg.
I mean, listen. I think Carolina is on the right path, but they are about another 2 years. I'm going to say maybe next year.
Yeah, I would say
if they have a good enough draft, if they can keep everything normal in the locker room, that next year they could make a run. To think that they're going to make a run here is wishful thinking, I believe.
So you think Tampa still continues number one or Atlanta moves up?
I mean, I think Atlanta has the biggest upside. I think that Tampa, until Baker starts doing badly, you can't just say, "Oh, he has a good year, has a bad year." Well, he said last time I checked, he's been to the playoffs twice now in a row. So that sounds like he's had two halfway decent good years, so far.
Well, he's been
Does
to
he
the
have
playoffs
bad games?
in a
Yes.
row because the division is so bad it hadn't been competitive. So Let's
Well,
put that out
that's
there.
not his fault, is it?
Right.
Because I
Not
tell you, as far as I've checked, Carolina hasn't done so many big leaps and
At
bounds this
all.
year
No,
to
well.
be able to compete.
What I will say about Tampa Bay, they did lose their offensive coordinator to the Duval. They lost to Jacksonville,
Oh.
so we'll see. We'll see. They're projected to regress offensively a little bit because of that, but we'll see how they do. I don't know who they replaced Cohen with. I can't even think about their offensive coordinator right now, but
They
we'll
And the
also
see.
previous
And I
season,
do
we
think
got their
they,
coach.
I think
So,
Carolina will progress a little bit. Yes, I think they will
yeah,
progress. They
they
look like they're going a little bit better.
and Tampa Bay also lost their defensive line coordinator too. So
oh yeah,
they
the
lost
previous
lost
season
them
we
to
took their
us.
coach. The Panthers took their coach. So now that's all three pieces.
Who is
So
us, by the way?
Panthers took
Lions.
Dan Canales.
Okay. Just wanted to
Oh,
make sure who I was talking to.
oh wow.
And so
The next Super Bowl, the next
I tell
Super
you,
Bowl champ.
I think that Carolina will progress as long as their quarterback progresses, and I think that he will win 2 more games than he won last year, personally, because of him being better quarterback just from now knowing the NFL for a couple of seasons. But I don't think that they are ready to are poised to make a run. I think that you're going to see a big log jam right around 500 in this
Mm-hmm.
division,
Yep.
and you're going to still see until Tampa proves otherwise. I still think they're the team that is the team to beat.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's understandable. JTRAIN, I know you got to get out of here. I'm going to pause now so you can go ahead and make your exit stage left. So good to have you as always, brother. We will see you Wednesday on the midweek professional show and have a great week.
You all have a great one too. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming on, Pags.
Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you.
Peace out. All right. So, guys, that was hold on, we
What you
lost
do?
somebody else. So sorry, Pags. That's what happens when you talk about the Panthers, you get put backstage. Just kidding. It really was an accident. I was trying to move James at the same
Sure.
time, and then I tapped you by
Sure.
mistake. So Pax, what's going on in Philadelphia news? I know there's some hockey plugs in. First, let's talk NFL first. Any major things going on with the Eagles other than continuing to romp through the country, celebrating and flying?
No, we're still the world champs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I So I mean, you know what? Right now, everybody is trying to figure out who we're going to play first in on September 4th, and
Hang
I
on
think
1 second, Pags. I just thought about something. Have you met BSTRILLA? Have you met Brian that's on the show with us now? Have you met him?
no, I don't think
Okay,
so.
I apologize. I forgot we have not done a show with you. This is Brian Art B. Striller, Detroit Lions extraordinaire, one A Cheek and Three Toes podcast host. And this is the Philly sports guy, Pags, James Peglee.
Or
You hear
Paye,
he's talking
however you want to
Paye,
say
Paye.
it.
Let me get the name right of the Eagles. So let me make the proper introductions. My apologies about that.
I've actually saw Pags on here before when I was watching the
Yes,
show.
but I
So
wanted to
he's been on.
introduce you to since we're now hosting
I
together.
understand that, yeah, but I've actually got experience listening to him. So
I was going to
Uh,
say, I mean, if there was a chance I was going to meet him, I would have been at the draft a couple years ago. Um, yeah, I spent some time up in Detroit. I actually love Detroit. I lived in Warren, Michigan for a little while,
what'd
so
you do?
I have
D
some strong
Tweezy.
ties to the Detroit area.
He loves D Tweezy. All right, so no moves on the no roster moves though, right?
I mean, we lost our guys on defense. We lost the what I will call um, some some weight. You know what I mean? I mean, Slay is still a great player. CJGJ is Detroit can even say that he's actually I think a good safety and brings some swagger to any defense he joins just because of his attitude. Short of that, I mean, I think that they're poised to try to replenish a lot of things in the draft because I think that our offense has not changed one little spot really, and I mean we had to change out one guard, so one
Mhm.
offensive lineman is what we've lost on our offensive side, And on our defensive side, I mean, we lost some pieces, but our defensive line is, I think, the big reason on why we had to do that right now is because Jalen Carter is poised to become the richest player to ever play the game who's not a
Yes, he
quarterback.
is.
For a
So
He
moment
is.
yeah, I mean, I
until the
think
next
that's
quarterback steps up.
well, no. Well, it's not even the corner. It's not even the quarterback. He's like I said, he's going to be the highest paid non-quarterback, probably
Yeah.
up until Hutchinson resigns. So
Mhm.
that's probably how that's going to play. Because I think that those two guys are going to be the cornerstones of our individual defenses for a very long time. That
Mhm.
being said, the only thing that's really big in football world is us trying to figure out who we're going to play on September 4th. And I think that there's only two choices. If I am the NFL and I'm saying who are you going to start off the season with? I personally think it's going to be Washington because that's a rematch of the NFC Championship game. The only other game that makes any bit of sense whatsoever would be Detroit, as that would have been the NFC Championship game that should have happened.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they didn't get past Washington. Washington was playing really strong, and when you have to replace 22 guys on defense, it's hard to pick up from the trash heap and hope that somebody is going to get through. I think they just had too many losses on defense, and it's going to be interesting to see how they recover from that this year and make this run. Because I still believe, kind of like I believed last year, that the NFC Championship is going to have to go through Detroit. And uh, I think that we're going to wind up seeing that this year. But I kind of believe in my own mind, if you don't start with Detroit in the beginning of the year, that's going to make for a great Monday night football game right around week 9 or 10.
Mhm. I agree with that. Yeah.
What would you
I
think
lo-
about that type of matchup, Strilla?
oh, that'd be great. It's going to be in Philadelphia. It's going to show where the Lions are at that time, especially if he says on Monday night and about week 9. That would be really good because that would show both teams where they stand at in the NFC. Um, I like a lot of things that Howie's done in the offseason. You basically are just recycling older players for newer players. You got your rookies coming in there to start. I mean, hell, you had Quentin and Cooper just playing out of their minds, and I mean that's the reason why you got rid of Darius Slay. And Darius Slay, I love Darius Slay. Obviously, came from Detroit. He
Yep.
always shows love for Detroit and Philadelphia. So it was sad to see him go, but I understood the move, and I'm not on the same path with you with CJG. No, he was an ass when he was here. Excuse me, but he
Well,
was an
I,
ass
I
when he was
think he
here. But
brings a swagger to the defense. He may be an ass because he likes to talk a little too much,
mhm,
and the words get out. That's the problem. Like the words
mhm.
get out. Like he doesn't know how to keep it in the locker room, and I feel like that. But he does play, and he does add a little bit of swagger to a defense, and I feel like that you felt that 2 years ago. I think that I mean, you could say whatever you want, and listen, I wasn't in Detroit for that whole run, but and he was one of the vocal leaders on that defense, whether you wanted to believe it or not, because he was that guy, and he had just gone to an NFC champion, just gone to a Super Bowl, lost, but it didn't matter. He joined Detroit, and he started to teach them how to win some games. Because that Detroit, if you remember the year
Mm,
before that, they were losing a lot of one-score games. And I feel that he didn't win them personally, but he showed them or helped them learn how to get over those humps and win some of those one-score games rather than continually lose them.
well, you have to actually be playing to do that, and he didn't play past the Seattle game, so he wasn't worth anything until the playoffs. And then in the playoffs, he was missing tackles. Dan Campbell told him, "Hey, dude," because him and Ayuk were jawing. No, not Ayuk. Debo were jawing at each other, and he told him, "Don't go out there and get no penalty because you have this thing with Debo," and he got a penalty in the game. So no, he might be good for you guys. He might have been good for New Orleans, but he was an ass here. He was not a good player here. He was not a good player here. In fact, I was so happy he got off this team. It was, because I, like you, and when he first got on his team, I thought he was going to be, good, because CJ, he was good at New Orleans. He was good in Philadelphia. I said, hell, that's good. I was kind of like this on it, but at the same time, I said, well, that's good depth for the safeties, and they could, Kirby can learn a lot off him too. And I'm not saying Kirby didn't learn anything off him, but you got to be there to be learning something. And I don't really think he did anything to change the culture that was already happening in Detroit in the first place. They still went 12-5 without him being in a lineup mostly. So I'm not even giving him props for that. He was a good player for you guys. And when he came back and won the Super Bowl again with you guys, he was a good player then. So he just wasn't a fit with us. I'll just put it that way.
No, and that makes sense. And to be honest, as they got, the reason why they got rid of him now was because he was no longer a fit for us either. Because again, you can't have the words come out of the locker room. That's part of the thing. There's a lot about his game that I can say mirrors Malcolm Jenkins, except the man himself. That's the difference. I think that the games mirror a lot about each other. But Malcolm Jenkins was a leader in a real sense. Like he leads men, and he doesn't let the BS of Twitter and social media and everything get the better of him, where I feel like GJ does. And that's kind of and that changes how you look at it in the process of that. And so hey, listen, I am happy that he was here this year. I think that he was an integral part of getting to where we had to get to get over the hump and win the Super Bowl. That being said, have fun where you're at.
Right.
And good morning to you, Linda and Mac. Thank you so much for joining us. We gave you guys a shout out earlier. Of course, we're hoping that Mac is resting, and we hope to see him soon. And again, everybody, like I said, make sure you find and rate us on National Streaming Sports on the Roku app. And we're there 24/7 and have over 12,615 likes, all because of you. So we appreciate you guys. And Miss Linda and Mac, have an amazing day. Yeah, that's a good point, guys. Like, you have to think about when players are at different teams, they literally have a different function for different organizations. Like, some teams, they get with them and it literally accentuates the talent they already have. Some teams, it literally diminishes. It's just, one or the other. And Brent says swagger is one thing, but stuff like that stupid ski mask crap made me out.
Yeah, that was bad.
Out on CJGJ, whatever that is.
CJGJ.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. He does some stupid stuff that makes you not want to take him seriously, and that will affect a locker room sometimes. I don't think it mattered as much because there was a little bit of extra swagger. Listen, I tell you, Quinyon Mitchell is one of the. I know it's hard to say when you have a nickname called Quinyanimo Bay that you were not spoken about enough, that you are quietly one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Likely should have been an all-pro, first team all-pro this year. And only reason why he's not is because nobody really knew him. Nobody really knew what was going on. But they didn't throw his way because he was like glue on whoever he covered. And you just can't – he's going to be amazing. Cooper DeJean is – is great, but he's not Quinyon Mitchell. You know what I mean? And I don't need him to be Quinyon Mitchell because there could be only one. And Quinyon is going to be, barring any injury, he's going to be great like that for a very long time. That guy, dare I say right now, his trajectory is Hall of Fame in 12 years. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I see him having a 12-year career. I see him being in the Hall of Fame because he's quiet. He does his job. He ain't got nothing else to do except do what he does best and end a story. He just wants to work, wants to do his thing, and win rings. And I can't ask for anything more than from a player.
And you got to remember, he's a rookie, so he shouldn't be talking stuff anyway. Because
Exactly.
rookie needs to be quiet, just like Cooper DeJean. I think the thing that CJGJ is about, though, I always have this adage: if you play like Dion, you can talk like Dion. If you don't play like Dion, don't talk like Dion. And that's what I give to CJGJ sometimes, because he talks too much, and you're not I don't believe he's the best safety around. So
Well, no,
you know.
and but what I do think is that the talk is part of his game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mind a guy who talks a little bit, but what I do have I do have some of the problem. You know what I mean? I do have, like, you can't have it start to get out into social media. You can't let words of other people bother you so much that you got to respond. You know, it's like, come on, be a man.
All right.
You know,
Yeah.
and stop being a baby. And that's
Yeah,
kind
be
of
petty.
that's kind of what I see from him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, some people need the talk to be able to make themselves better, because ultimately poking the bear sometimes works in your favor and sometimes works against you.
Against you, yeah.
You know, like you said a couple years ago, he was poking the bear and he wound up being the one that got called for it,
Yeah.
and that hurt your team. Going
Mhm.
the opposite way, there's a lot of times where he pokes the bear. You could say that he took Travis Kelce out of the game and with that first hit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I mean, that's a very strong possibility that you could say that actually occurred. I can't, I wasn't on the field. I didn't hear what they said afterwards, but I know that Travis Kelce didn't have a Travis Kelce like game.
Mm-hmm.
And did it have
He
it?
was
Did it have how much
isolated.
of that hit had to do with that? I can't really say. But
Yeah, he was.
he's got. I mean, he's going to be on a really good defense. I mean, he's in Houston now, right? I think that's where he went.
No, he went to. Did he go to Houston? Yeah. Did he go to Houston? I thought he went somewhere else.
I think he is in Houston. I'm not 100% certain, but I'll
Cooper
do my
DeJean?
research right now.
No,
No, Cooper DeJean is
CJ.
Oh yeah, I was like Cooper
the
DeJean.
CJ Garner Johnson got traded. Let's see. It was back. It was like 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
He is now a
I was
I thought he
looking
went to
too.
Houston Texan. You're right. Correct.
So, and they have a really good defense there. Again, I feel like that's one of those spots where he's got a coach that might be able to quell him a little bit. Because that coach has got a pretty strong resume as well. And yeah, I played in the NFL. I've been that guy. I've been the guy you're trying to be. So don't test my patience that way. Give us that swagger, give us that strength. Keep it out of the social media.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Campbell was a player too, so I mean, he understands all that hoopla that goes on during the course of a season as well. It's just that you have to, as an individual, you have to want to. And as far as the lines are concerned, and the culture is, if you want to be here, you be here. If you don't want to be here, you're going to show reasons why you don't want to be here. And that's, I think CJ just didn't want to be here. He just took the contract to get a paycheck until he got picked up by Philadelphia the next year, because everybody knew that was going to happen. So he was just here. He was just here for a vacation, kind of, I guess you could say. And and if he goes to Houston, and and that head coach gets to him, then I mean, that's fine. I mean, right? He's got to realize now he's going on a downward path of his career, because he's getting older, and defenses aren't going to, people aren't going to be getting him anymore just because of his, if he plays well, yeah, but he hasn't really. He played good in a rotation with Philadelphia. I'll put it to you this way: I didn't see he might have made a couple of impact plays for you guys during the season, but You want somebody that like Malcolm Jenkins. You want somebody that's going to continue to make impact plays on a consistent basis. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. This is the exact reason why nobody listens to this Jamie Lindsay guy. All right, he's a Tampa Bay. Hey, he's a Tampa Bay fan, and really, I mean, nobody really likes him down there either because he doesn't know football. To say that Cooper DeJean only had one interception all season long and didn't do anything else shows how stupid you are when it comes to football. That's why nobody listens to anything that you say. To think that the Eagles aren't going to win a Super Bowl anytime soon, again, you guys don't have any chance. You guys beat us one game in a day where they had a hurricane and it was 200 degrees and the Eagles were so ill prepared they didn't want to be there. So you learn how to actually win games in your own division before you start talking to me there, Jamie, because we are the world champs. And last time I checked, you're still crying about Banana Ball. So go cry about Banana Ball and get off my page.
Oh my goodness. All right, we got some comments that are coming in right now. Oh Lord have mercy. Hold on, let me go back before I get to this other person. Hi, Jamie Lindsay. I didn't even realize you were commenting.
This is who I was talking about.
He says, DeJean, great. He's not great. He made one play okay, so you must have saw that comment, Pat.
I did. That's why I had to go ahead and mention something. Because Jamie's like 4'6". He's got a big Napoleon complex. He's a Tampa Bay fan who dresses up. He paints his face a little bit like the Ultimate Warrior. He tries to be like all big and bad and stuff like that. But he's in Tampa, so it's he's got like one of those big trucks. He's got to overcompensate for a lot of different things. But all his Jamie stick together.
Yeah, hi Broski Bear.
Hey Broski Bear.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, he's a Chicago Bear fan, obviously.
Yeah, Brad Kryson says, hi guys, checking in. Jamie. NOLA day today. If the Phillies stay healthy, we can go all the way. Hello, Brad. Thanks for joining us. One of the Philly sports guys followers.
And
Brad
is definitely he is one of the Philly faithful. A little bit of a homer. He's a little bit of a homer, but we love Brad.
He said, shut your mouth. The Philadelphia Eagles will win another Super Bowl. Let's Paz, we always love to have you come in because we don't get enough Philly news until you come in. So thank you. We'll come back to you on some other Philly sports in just a second. But I want to get y'all's opinion. I was just looking while we're here. Everybody knows Kirk Cousins wants out of his contract with Atlanta now that he's milked them for the money that they've gotten. And so he's been spotted up there in Ohio this weekend and made known of it. I mean, hashtagging himself at Chipotle, and they're hashtagging Browns in the caption on Twitter and X and all this stuff. He's taking pictures with employees at Chipotle. Then he went to some barbecue joint in Avon and took some pictures there, and they're hashtagging Browns there. And he was making himself really known throughout, like with regular heyday people, visiting throughout multiple establishments in Northern Ohio over the course of the day, which was Thursday. It's no secret that he's gone to Arthur Blank and said, hey, I'm not here for a backup position. Yeah, you guys paid me, but I want out. Trade me. And Arthur Blank's like, nope, we paid you. You're going to sit down and just be here in case we need you.
Did he go to the Christmas Story house? He hasn't been there. He hasn't been everywhere in Cleveland unless you go travel just 20 minutes outside of Cleveland and go to the Christmas Story house. You got to take a picture in front of the Christmas Story house and be like, Ralphie, I can't get up. Because that's kind of what Kirk Cousins is.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he went there, but there is a connection. Kevin Stefanski was Cousins' offensive coordinator in Minnesota. So let's not forget that that's a very vital piece. The Browns do need a quarterback, and Cousins is apparently waiting until after the draft to try to facilitate once again a trade out of Atlanta. What do you guys think?
How would Cleveland pay him?
Right.
That's my question. I mean, what they're gonna say? Okay, because you're going to try to be. Is he trying to make Atlanta fit the bill? Is that how that's going to work?
I don't know. Nobody's paying that gazillion dollars for him.
Well, they already flipped the bill. They already gave him guaranteed money.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. So, it's like they're going to be. oh, you're going to trade me and you're going to eat all that. I mean, I guess that makes sense a little bit, but you got to. I mean, I just don't think that Kirk Cousins. Listen, it's time to retire, buddy. It's time to retire. You haven't been able to win a game on prime time forever. You know what I mean? So that's your mo. Going to Cleveland, I guess that's a good place for you to go to die. That's like when the horse goes out to pasture. You know what I mean? You go losing Cleveland for the rest of your days. Um, I don't know what else you're going to do there. You're paying a quarterback who likes massages, and you're playing a defensive guy, the highest paid contract to ever get played the game, and you can't afford anybody else because those two guys make up 3/4 of your payroll.
Yeah,
So
Deshaun doesn't come back though. I don't think
ever,
they've got to do
ever.
something. Right.
So I think that they were hoping that everything would have fallen apart and they wouldn't have had to pay the contract, but they're
Right.
stuck paying it, and it's still going to cost them. And I don't know what you're going to do with Cousins. I mean, unless you can get him there where Atlanta eats all of that contract.
That's
They're going to
crazy.
eat it all anyway, so it doesn't make
They're
a
gonna have
difference.
to. Yeah,
Atlanta's being a bunch of spoiled brats too about the whole situation. If he wants to be out of there, you didn't promise him that he was going to be a backup. You said he was going to be a starter. You paid him starter type money, and then you're going to tell him, no, we're not going to let you go because we paid you all this money. No, that's your fault. That ain't his fault. That him and his agent worked that out for him. He did like he does in every team he goes to. He steals the money. So I mean, Atlanta's being a bunch of babies about it. That's what they're doing.
Broski, we'll come back to your question for Pags in a minute about another sport. We're going to stick to NFL right now. He says Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers both need to hang it up. Y'all, I'm telling you, this is like an ongoing saga with the both of them. I think they were drafted around the same time, if I'm not mistaken. It's not, at least maybe a couple of years in between the two. But they've been in the league double digits years now. And double digits for us is one thing in the lay world, but for a quarterback and a journeyman quarterback at that, now once you get past the two teams mark, you become a journeyman a little bit. Aaron Rodgers is now getting ready to be on his third team, if he gets there, and actually the way he's supposedly dainted around with the Steelers, who have offered him this bone, so to speak. He's not biting, and it's
That's not
almost
true.
like
That's not true. I actually heard something about that, and I don't want to. I don't. I mean, so they're making a big deal about it. Is what it is. Is Pat McAfee is about to go do this big show out in Pittsburgh, and I think that that's the only reason why they're keeping it quiet is that he's going to be announced on that show, which is happening April 9th.
wow. I
So
believe that because him and Pat are like that. He stays up under
So that's,
Pat.
I think that that's the only reason why you haven't heard. But you rest assured. Listen, Pittsburgh's got everything else except a quarterback right now,
Yep.
and they haven't done anything. They're going to say, "Oh yeah, I mean, whoever they got on their roster right now, who's been Mason Rudolph, I think is who it is." And I think that Mason, the reason why Mason's still on the team was to make sure that the wide receiver, because him and the wide receiver are like best buddies. So they wanted to make sure that that guy stayed happy. But Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. There is no doubt about that. There's no way he's going to sit out a season. There's no way that you can't. Listen, the moment you stop playing, you stop playing forever. And I
Yep.
think that
That's what I
Aaron
was going to
Rodgers
say.
understands that. So I think he plays this year for Pittsburgh, and that gets announced on April 9th when they have this big event for Pat McAfee.
That's so amazing that April 9th is that day. That's actually my dunkle who I dedicate my show to. That's his birthday. He's no longer with us, and he actually was friends, grew up with Joe Gillum from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they went to school together when they were kids, and they were friends, and so he was a Steelers fan, and so how ironic and iconic. I wish he were here because he would not care for Aaron Rodgers. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just know how he was, and he passed before the Aaron Rodgers we've seen with the Jets, which became Pansy Rodgers, in my opinion. So it's gonna be interesting to see if Rodgers kind of has a mental bounce back with that discipline that Pittsburgh has, because Tomlin is not going to go for those shenanigans that Aaron Rodgers did with the Jets and he ultimately did with the Packers before he left.
Yeah, I don't think that that's even a worry. I think that I think that Pittsburgh is a good team. As long as he can be a serviceable quarterback, they're going to win 10 or 11 games because that's what Pittsburgh does every year. I know that they've got a lot of good pieces there. And as long as he can throw the ball, as long as he can throw the ball and be 65% or 62% accurate, they're going to win 11 games. And they may, I still got Houston going to the or AFC Championship game. I'm not sure who's going to be the other team. I don't think Kansas City. I think Kansas City takes a step back. I feel that it could be I say San Diego, LA, but I just don't trust that team either. Um, it could be the Bills. I know that they're the ones that everybody is like the popular pick, but
Mm-hmm.
like I wouldn't be surprised if Miami steps up a little bit this year. But I
It's
got
about time
Houston
for
there.
them.
But it wouldn't surprise me that if it's not Pittsburgh, it's Baltimore. I know that Baltimore's coach just got Harbaugh got a 3-year
I
extension.
was just about to talk about that. You read my
Mm-hmm.
mind. I literally have the notes right here. Thanks, Pags.
So, but that's like I said, I know that I don't trust the quarterback there either. Like I know that he's a great quarterback, but when I feel like he's Michael Vick, and with Michael Vick, if pay attention to Michael Vick, you'd beat Michael Vick. And that's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
same way here. It's like I think that's how you beat Baltimore. You pay attention to their quarterback. And so it's possible that they could make it to an AFC championship game and win a playoff game for the first time in forever, it would seem. But I wouldn't necessarily hold my breath on that.
Yeah. I don't know if that comment. Let's see. Hi, Miss Linda again. Thank you for having a great show. I don't know if that comment about Turner and Real Muto that's not NFL related. That's
That's
baseball, right?
baseball. That's
Yeah, we're
baseball.
gonna
Mm-hmm.
come back to the baseball questions in a minute, guys. We got a couple of those. Yeah, it's just interesting to see. Let's talk about some NFL free agency grades right now. There's been a lot of moves around the league, and Devontae Adams to the Rams is ranked number one, along with Justin Fields going to the Jets. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm not 100% still sold on Justin Fields as a starting quarterback. I just feel like that time has come and gone where he was. And I'm in a franchise like the Jets, even though they've had a lot of players in place, I feel like the Aaron Rodgers cloud will continue to loom for a little bit. That locker room needs to get some discipline back. And I don't know if Justin Fields is the one to go in there and revamp that. So I don't know about that trade being the highest one, but I will agree to Devontae Adams trade to the Rams. What are you guys' thoughts?
I'm gonna
Well, at
let
least,
you do it.
well, at least for the Justin Fields thing, I think that Justin Fields is one of those quarterbacks that's on a wrong team at the wrong time. I think he's a capable quarterback. We'll see what AG can do with him with the Jets. I mean, they moved. He wasn't the starting quarterback for Pittsburgh last year, but he started because Wilson was out. He did a pretty good job. I'm not saying he was lights out or anything like that, but he was 4-2 with them. So I mean, he was capable.
Mm-hmm.
I just a lot of things. It depends on the teams that you go to. You can't always measure what they did before, always to what they're going to do ahead of time, because it depends on the coaching. It depends on Let's face it. Tomlin is not a quarterback's coach. He's a defensive
Mm-hmm.
coach, and ever since Ben Roethlisberger left there, that whole team they win, and it's because of the defense most of the time. They win, but they don't know how to pick a quarterback. They don't know how to pick a quarterback right now. So, I mean, it is what it is. And
It's
they don't have
funny.
Wilson or Field. So
Both of those
Yeah.
trades, I'll be honest,
yeah.
that's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
That all the movement that happened in this season has all been yawn. That's kind of how I feel. I know that there's been some big names, and how somebody's going to make a difference. Debo Samuel to Washington. I would have thought I would have put higher than Devontae Adams going to the Rams. Because you had Cooper Kupp there, so Cooper Kupp going to Seattle was a big one. Why did Seattle trade their quarterback? I have no idea. I feel like that was a bigger deal than some of these other things. I think that people are just whoever wrote that article has got Devontae Adams on the brain because they love Devontae Adams. That's about it. That I don't think that was the number one.
This is CBS Sports ranking. It's a CBS
and I think
Sports ranking.
that doesn't surprise me. That sounds like a homer type thing to Devontae Adams.
Cody Benjamin was the writer of that article.
He sounds like a homer.
I do want to say real quick while we're like in between that. Broski Bear says in theory Rodgers to Pittsburgh makes sense, but so does Rodgers to Minnesota. Aaron is waiting for the Vikings to say JJ isn't a guaranteed starter.
They've already said that, Broski.
They've already mentioned that, Broski.
They've already said that. The team owner already said that he's their number one.
Broski says he's also busting Fields because he's the bridge quarterback. He also says it's his 5th season. He's not even had 2,600 yards.
It's always a Chicago fan. Always a Chicago fan.
Going in for it. And Brad, of course, continuing to rah-rah Pags here. We know you're a Pags fan. He's mentioned several times in the comments that the Eagles are America's number one team. Thank you so much, Brad. We recognize that. Thank you. Congratulations again. I don't know, guys. So what are your thoughts on Devontae Adams then? Like, was that a high trade or not really? Just me.
I mean, it's good for Stafford. I mean, he's got another weapon to throw to. So, I mean, and he's a veteran.
I feel like the Rams jumped the shark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, it sounds, it's that they definitely date that statement, definitely dates myself. But that's exactly kind of what I feel. I feel like that they are so far beyond. I mean, I know that they made a run, and you could say that they were a sack away from beating us in the playoffs, and I don't think so. You know what I mean? I think that they're still a bit away. But, I mean, you had Cooper Kupp, and all of a sudden you're like, no, we're not going to deal with Cooper Kupp. Now we're going to have Devontae Adams, who, last time I checked, has been a cancer in locker rooms every time that he's gone somewhere. So
he's a junior to Aaron Rodgers. That's his, BFF. And you could throw Lazard in there with him. It's the trio of toxicity. Anybody that's a branch from the Aaron Rodgers tree, get ready for the drama. And that's why I am not sold on him in Pittsburgh unless Tomlin brings the hammer down and make sure that Rodgers doesn't come in and trying to run the locker room. And he's a coach killer. He is a coach killer. He is literally he's not a team player. He's, like I said, last season, instead of, bonding with your new team, you're somewhere sniffing mushrooms and on these retreats over in Honduras and Nicaragua and wherever you are. But you're not.
What you do? You sniff mushrooms?
Yeah, that's what I said. I always say he sniffs them. I don't know. He's sniffing them and lining them up and cutting them or whatever, powdering them down. I mean, that's why actually,
and I'll be honest, that's not how you do ayahuasca.
No,
ayahuasca is a very we won't get into that. I don't want to start to tell people, but
he takes the shit type mushrooms.
Shiitake.
Notice I can't say none of it. See, Pags, you're the expert on all these herbs.
These mushrooms. Spices. I don't know that I want to be that guy, but
I mean, let's just be clear. There's a reason why Pat McAfee is always geeked up. I mean, he must live off of a Monster's IV or Red Bull IV. And, no doubt, whatever he's on, same Kool-Aid that Aaron Rodgers has. That's why he's always running up under him. So Broski's coming back, a Bears fan, dialing it back. Let me rephrase that. Aaron is waiting for the Vikings to change their stance. Sir, we've already addressed that. They're not going to do that. We appreciate the rephrase, but unless you've not, been under a rock.
He's just trying to hope for that something's going to change that make his Bears more relevant in that division. Sorry.
Yeah, the Bears is busted. Brent says the Rams already gave Philly the hardest game in the playoffs. And if Adams clicks with Stafford, it could be a good signing. Locker room issues, though. So, um, we see that happening. Draft rankings, and then we'll switch over the last couple of minutes for Phillies baseball. Um, let's see. This whole Shador Sanders thing, Pags, I want to get your opinion on it. I know we've probably browbeaten. Strilla and I have already talked about it. JTRAIN and I have. This whole involvement with Dion, the daddy apron strings, let's make sure that, we get Shador where he wants to be or else. Now he's dialing it back. Oh, I'm so sorry. He'll be happy wherever he is, even if it's with the Titans or the Browns or even if it's in Timbuktu, as long as it's an NFL team. What are your thoughts on the involvement, the now dial back, and where do you think Shador actually goes in the draft?
They have been doing this for years, so I don't think that that's any big deal. Listen, that's his son. He's gonna say whatever. He's like, yeah, I want him in the NFL now. I'm gonna backstep it a touch. I want him to be in the NFL. Truth of the matter is I think he wants him to go to the Giants because I see Brian Debo as being the guy who's going to wind up getting fired first. I think that the Giants are still a mess, and I think that Brian is going to be unfairly fired soon. And I think that that's where you're going to see Deion Sanders coach. That being said, I listen. Archie Manning did it. It's there's always going to be.
Wait, hold on, Pags. Did you say that's where we're going to see Deion Sanders coach?
I think so.
That? Well, because it's so weird. They just extended Deion 5 years his contract with Colorado for $54 million. All the way up to 2029. He gets $10 million this year, $11 million the next 3 years, and then $12 in 2029. So you're saying they break
but you saw the one thing that's the most important part out there. It's a $4 million buyout.
Yeah, that's true.
$4 million to buy him out of that contract, and that's cheap money. There's the reason why they did it like that.
And you were wrong, and you're a liar. Get your facts together, sir. Go ahead, Pags, with what your thoughts were on Shador. Broski's, their garbage team will never go anywhere. Never been since '85 and will never go again. Now that's that.
So I believe, I just believe that it's. I look at New York as maybe the stop point for him. I think that as much as Deion wants to, like I said, you've had coaches or you've had fathers trying to tell their sons or try to dictate to the NFL where they want their sons to go. John Elway's father was very similar in doing this and stuff like that. So this is nothing new. This is absolutely nothing new. So I think that as long as there's going to be fathers, the fathers are going to want to have their sons play wherever they can have them play that makes sense for them. And I kind of believe that it's going to be in New York.
Yeah. John Gonzalez, good morning. Thank you for joining us. He said Sanders could go to the Jets at 7 or Saints at 9. A lot of talk about him going to the Saints at 9.
He won't make it that far. There's too many trade. If he makes it down to the Saints, he won't go to the Saints because the Saints will do the smart thing and trade that pick for somebody who's going to give up a couple of first-round picks. See, there is where I would say you could check on Minnesota. Minnesota would be the team that could trade up, trade a couple of future picks to have to go grab Sanders, because I don't think they believe in JJ either. I think that JJ is a good locker room guy, but I don't believe that they think that he is a good enough quarterback to really take the reins. And I think that that's why they would go after Sanders and they would give up a couple.
The only thing about that I disagree with there, Pags, is the fact that you don't even know what you have in JJ yet. One, and you used the number 1 pick last year on him, so I'm not getting that. I'm not getting that understanding. They bring if they bring Shador Sanders in there, then they basically busted their franchise, because you just signed a number 1, a quarterback at a number 1, and he had a bad injury that put him out for this first year, but you haven't even seen what he can do out in the field and playing in a real NFL game yet. And that's just jumping to assumption. I think what they should do is just go out there and get them a veteran quarterback to back him up Because anybody,
That's what I
let me tell you
said.
something. Sam Darnold had a great year last year. You know why he had a great year last year? Because he had a quarterback whisperer as a coach, and he also had a good offense to work with. So you can put anybody behind there, and they did bump up their offensive line. So they'll better protect, at least on paper, but at least they'll be able to better protect. So JJ's got all the weapons there for him. You know what I'm saying? It's just I don't understand this whole
Spoken like a guy who
wouldn't-
definitely goes blue and is not a Spartan fan. So, by the way,
why wouldn't the
I love all my
Saints
Michigan teams.
Yeah,
You got
why
nothing to do with
wouldn't the
Michigan.
Saints keep him then? Because they're not sold on Carr. It would make sense that they would let Shador come there because Carr is not the quarterback of the future, no matter what they've extended him with.
well, no, and I get that. Like I said, I don't think that he's going to make it that far down. I think that there are too many other teams that will trade up for Shador Sanders. I think that that's a real statement. And I think that somebody will leverage a little bit of their future picks for him. So he won't make it to number 9. I think that there's going to be somebody who believes in him more than anything else. So I'd say, and I know, you could say whatever you want to. I still believe that the Raiders are probably the team that could possibly, that he'll stop at the Raiders, even though they played this whole trade and stuff like that, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah. I'm not really concerned about that either. I just think that, you could say, to add even to what you're saying, the one thing I've heard about J.J. McCarthy is that he is a master at watching film, and that Darnold learned a lot watching film with J.J. Not necessarily what's happening in the film, but watching the film and getting what you need to get from the film. That Darnold learned a lot from that, and he's taking a lot of that from J.J. McCarthy. And I've heard that about him, which is what makes him a really good locker room guy to have there, because he is a student of the game. And that's really important. But the last guy I remember being an amazing student of the game was Doug Peterson. That's the last one I heard that has very similar mentality level. And Doug Peterson was an okay quarterback, but I mean, also taught other quarterbacks how to watch film and play the game and learn some of that stuff. So there's a piece of me that feels that although he is a great student of the game, is he going to be a good enough quarterback? I can't answer that question yet. You're right. Well, you don't know what you have. And are you willing to risk a season where you have a lot of potential on a guy that you're not sure about?
Yeah, he
Well,
said
based on-
Shador is probably
listen-
going to slide back like Lamar.
Well, based on the fact that, again, I live in Michigan, so I watch all Michigan and Michigan State games. When he played on Michigan, he was just basically a game manager. And that's all you really have to do with this Minnesota offense is be a game manager. That's what Sam Darnold was. He was a game manager. And if he can do that, he'll be fine. Nobody's asking him to go out there, and be touchdown Joe. You know what I'm saying? He's got to be just managing the game. He's got enough running back support. He's got an offensive line. He's got great receivers and a great tight end. I mean, he's got a ready-built offense, and that's what you want for your quarterback. If you're bringing in a new quarterback, you want weapons around him so he can succeed. And that's all really they need to ask of him.
Didn't they lose a couple of players on their offensive line, though?
But they replaced them with better offensive linemen. That's
okay. I don't know who they replaced them with, but I know that I saw that they lost a couple of guys, and that's
Bradbury, the center. They lost him, but they replaced him with Kelly, the center from Indianapolis, which is an upgrade.
All right. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Listen, I mean, you won all those games to have a first round exit. That's no bueno. You know what I mean? That's so you gotta figure it out and get over that hump. That's going to be a tough one, especially in that division. That division is not a simple division. And now you're playing the NFC East this year, which has got, like I said, I mean, Dallas has fallen off. Obviously, the Giants are a train wreck. But you got Washington, who is up and coming, and Philadelphia, who are the world champs. So it's going to be a tough season, a lot tougher season than it was when you were going up against the South.
Yeah, definitely a tough season. going in, and it's something definitely to keep our eyes on. I tell you, but who knows? I've got a couple of questions for you, Pags, as we switch to baseball here. The last 15 minutes of the show. Great show with BSTRILLA. Check out his podcast, One ASS Cheek and Three Toes. He'll be on this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and he's on every weekday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That show will be changing times in May, but for now we're all set for April. So make sure you check him out. He's on the Huddle Sports Network as well. A question for you from Broski Bear. He said, how good is Angelo's on Ninth and Fitzwater?
It is the
That's the
best
first.
cheesesteak in the city, and also probably one of the best pizzas in the city, hands down.
Okay,
Hands
he's
down.
trying.
I love cheesesteaks. There's a lot of amazing cheesesteaks place, but Angelo's right now is the number one.
I
He
heard that too.
probably Googled that and tried to get on your good side. Because we know he's a bigger fan. Here's a really legit question as we talk about the Phillies wrapping up and MLB. We started out talking about that at the top of the show. B. Strilla gave us a whole rundown here in JTRAIN over MLB, including that 20-9 whopping blowdown yesterday with these new bats they've gotten, the torpedo bats that the Yankees have gotten away with. However, Brad's question says Turner and Real Muto are hurt. What are your thoughts on marching everyone?
Well, Marshawn is
Marshawn,
the
excuse me.
center that's going to be the catcher, and he's going to get his opportunity while Real Muto's hurt. I'm surprised that Real Muto, I mean, he had such a terrible opening day. He had struck out 4 times swinging. That was really a tough one. I actually and kind of talk a little bit. I actually chose the Tigers to win the division up there. I hope that that this is just a little hiccup on coming north that they had for this opening series to go
Well,
0 and 3. Yes.
Well, they did play. They did play the world champions, and LA is loaded. This is no
Just a
doubt.
just a
I
small plug in real quick, guys. I'm sorry I missed a comment from Miss Linda. She said a game manager doesn't win Super Bowls anymore. And Brent says I can see the Vikings finishing 500 or a little better. JJ's roster is loaded with talent. Let me just grab those, and now we are full swing in baseball. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, no big deal. I think I know that they played the world champs, and I tell you, I've been saying it, and I know that they started off 5-0. So I'm going to just continue to say this, though, that when they have to start to hit adversity, they are not going to go 162-0. They are not going to win 100 games. They are
Right.
going to start to falter. And when they falter, there is too much money on that roster and too many egos, and you're going to have a hard time catching it back around again. So I would not be surprised to see that 500 or $600 million payroll not make the playoffs. I firmly believe that. That being said, obviously they had that one game. Had they won that extra innings game, they probably could come back and win the next day, and they didn't. And that's the reason why they're 0-3. I like the Tigers to make it to the playoffs this year. I think Cleveland's pitching is only going to do so much. Their bats are still not strong enough. As far as the Yankees go, listen, the Yankees are Guess what? The Yankees are another team that ain't going to make the playoffs. They just ain't got it, and their pitching is being hurt is going to hurt them here starting in month number 2. The Phillies right now, Turner being a little bit hurt, Real Muto being a little bit hurt. I want to see the guys step up a little bit. I think Sosa was an everyday player. I was not a big fan of the Turner signing to begin with, and I think that ever since he's been here, although he has had streaks of good, he is not the player that we thought we were signing, and that's a little bit of an issue. I feel like that this was done a little bit to placate Harper and try to get Harper in the mood to be able to, or get the pieces that Harper thought would be a championship team. That being said, I'm interested to see what Edmundo Sosa does when he plays every day, because he's got a bat that can play every day. I like Marshawn. I think that he is going to do great up here, and he's going to be the catcher of our future. While JT Realmuto could possibly be trade bait at in the trade deadline to an
Mm-hmm.
AL team for a pitcher in return, because I feel like we're
Oh.
going to need some pitching and maybe another like bench bat And I think that that's where I would look for where JT Realmuto is going to fit in best, because they're trying to figure out what to do with him. Like, are they going to put him in left field? They're going to try to put him at first base. I mean, there's a backlog of designated hitters on this team with Schwarber. So I think that that's part of the problem, and you're going to see JT possibly become a designated hitter somewhere in the AL.
That's going to be big. What are your thoughts yesterday? Was it the Yankees that beat the Brewers 20-9? What are your thoughts about these doggone torpedo bats that they've managed to get into the league, which would explain such a blowout? Basically, the grip is closer to the label, and all this stuff that New York has finagled their way in with.
Well, listen, the rules on the bats are very specific. So as long as it fits the rules of the bat, you can have the bat any way you want to. And listen, if this is what it is, I mean, there was you had the tomahawk bats, the bats that felt like an axe, where that you could swing with those. Again, legal. So it's not like they're doing something illegal. It's just it's the way that bat manufacturer is loaded the bats, and the first 3 pitches are home runs. Okay, great. I think that'll come back down to earth a little bit. I mean, I think that this is look, it's the bats' fault. Blah blah blah. I mean, the first 3 batters on the Yankees also can hit home runs. So let's call that spade a spade. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and let me just address a comment, Broski. Once again, listen, my name is Sonja. You'll say Prim and Panthers. It's Prim and proper, but I am a Panthers fan. The Panthers are always my team, but I did support Detroit last year because cats roll with cats. Okay, so if they look good next year, they will continue to be supported. And I was just looking on my TikTok last night. Even last year, when Detroit beat Kansas City by 1 point, I posted it because I always just support them. So this was before they even. Matter of fact, it was before this last season we just had. It was the previous season. So you can feel free to follow me on Prim and Proper Sports on YouTube and the Pretty Sports Lady on TikTok and talk all your banter there, okay? Pags, I'm so sorry for the interruption, but he continues to make comments.
I understand. Hey, listen. When you have haters, you're doing something right.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? I've never had them. Maybe it's finally. Maybe I had to get on the Sunday morning show, and I don't know who brings him. I don't know which one of you all brings him over. I think it's one of BSTRILLA's folks, because he comes on and he's like a magnet. He just stays there and just continuously hurls insults. He just can't wait.
That's all right. That's all right. Hey, listen. Hey, the Bears have been relevant. Oh, I guess it was 1985. That
it was. I was 10.
The Fog Bowl. The Fog Bowl was like the last real game that they won, and then they made it to the Super Bowl that one year. Oh, what happened during that Super Bowl? I think they got spanked. Yeah, it's so yeah. Let's call that for real. The double doink too. I mean, Chris, that ended Chris Nagy's coaching career. I think that double
doink.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That was Cody Parkey kicking another one for the Birds.
Yeah. So what's going on in hockey news up there with the Flyers?
Well, Tortorella let his mouth get in the way of of his coaching, and then that's what happened there. It was time. It was just time. I feel like that his coaching style gets very stale, and I mean, ultimately, I don't like the name that they're bringing up. They're saying, "Oh, we're going to maybe bring back Rick Tocchet." And I'm like, "Listen, if we wanted if I wanted to have a coach that I could put some money on the Jets losing this season, that would be the coach I would bring in." But short of that, I mean, that's really what he was known for. I mean, I'm making a joke about him being a bookie, but that being said, I don't like that. I don't like that whole idea. Oh, we're going to bring him back. Listen, the Flyers have done what the Flyers have always done, and that tries to bring back the old names to fill in voids and to put up the mirage that, hey, we're trying to do everything we can. I hope they bring in a real coach. I do not look at Tocchet as a real coach. I look at him as a player's guy who knows how to deal with players' things and sometimes gets a little lucky with the lines. Short of that, everywhere he has gone, he hasn't won a cup. He hasn't done any of that stuff. He's been an assistant on some cup teams, but he has not won a cup. And I want a guy who is fresh. I want somebody who knows how to win. Like I said, there's the coach from Denver, uh, not the Colorado Rockies. The actual Denver is a college team. I wouldn't mind having him. I think that this is a young team. I think you need a college style coach, somebody who can work these guys and be able to invest a system into them that's not what's been here and what's been tried and not worked in other spots. I am a
Mhm.
huge Flyers fan. I am big on hockey. I tell people that I bled orange and black before I ever bled green, and
Mhm.
and
I
uh, so
remember.
and I want the Flyers to be relevant again. And right now they are not relevant.
Yeah.
Hockey stinks when Philadelphia is not in the mix, and they've been out of the mix for way too long. And this is what happens when you have an organization own a franchise rather than an owner who actually has a part of the day-to-day operations. And I feel like that because Comcast has owned this organization, Ed Snyder has been doing cartwheels in his grave because this team has stunk ever since he's passed. And it's time for a really big change to happen. And I was hoping that Keith Jones and Danny Briere were going to make that happen, but it sounds to me like it's more of the same. And I'm tired of the same. I want difference.
Mhm.
Yeah, that whole division, the Metropolitan Division, led by the Capitals and followed by my team, the Carolina Hurricanes. And just a us, it's
See, you
unbelievable
want a
because the
coach?
Flyers are
There's a
solid.
coach. There's a coach. I would
Yes.
love
Mhm.
to have Rod Brindamore as coach of my team.
Mhm.
That's who
Mhm.
I want coaching my team. I
For
don't want
real.
Rick Tocchet. I
Right.
want Rod Brindamore. He's been over the hump. He won his
Hmm.
ring. He's brought that team back over there again. You know what I mean? So I want that's the type of coach I want. Somebody who is the best guy on the ice still. He could probably play right now if he
Hmm.
wasn't so old.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah,
that
I
good.
thought that.
And I just that's who I want. I want somebody who knows how to deal with these players and actually knows has a good system and do that. That would get my juices flowing. Getting Rod Brindamore, giving up the first round pick to trade for Rod Brindamore to be the coach here. That would be amazing. You know, and
That would be huge. And that's so amazing how they would say they would give up picks for coaches. That's something that I was just like, wow. I remember reading that a while back and I was like, wow, they actually do that. And the fact that, you're putting that out there and, the Maple Leafs can't
Hey,
do it.
Broski Bear, isn't it great how the NHL cheats for the Blackhawks all the time and they still are bringing up the back end
Yes.
of the NHL? The NHL, they
Ain't
got
going
all these good
nowhere.
players and they still suck right now. Yeah, you
They
can
are
talk
still
about
running his
2010.
mouth.
You can hang your hat on that all you want, but that's great. That is 15 years ago now. 15 years ago. I've got a daughter 15 years old tomorrow, by the way. Her birthday is tomorrow. So
Happy
Well,
she's
happy
15
birthday.
years
birthday.
old then. So, and it's almost to the day that she was kind of born to that, born
Oh,
on this.
wow.
So don't tell me, I hear you, blah, 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 on your Chicago. Your team suck right now. Baseball, you guys are going to lose a combined 200 games this year. Shut up about Chicago. You suck.
Okay, so let me take this time to say good morning
I
to
like
some other
Pags.
people. Good morning, Melvin, Hooley, Truth Be Told podcast, another affiliate on the network. Good morning, super early over there on the West Coast. And Broski, you've already been addressed with all that mess. The Blackhawks are garbage. Everything in Chicago is garbage. Let me put it out there now.
And
So
to
don't
talk
talk
about
about
the Red
Nova.
Wings real fast, I know that
Yeah,
Brent real quick.
yes, that comment
I'm a
for you.
fan of the Red Wings. It's a shame about Hockey Town. I mean, that what's it been 8 years or 9 years now that they haven't made the playoffs. It's a shame. I thought that as much as I hated it, I was living in Detroit when the
Oh
Flyers
wow.
lost the choking situation and got swept by the Red Wings. I was a big Iserman fan. And I thought that he was going to be able to make some of the difference there after doing it in tip. The problem is that the rules that the NHL put in place, there he's not ready to do yet. It's going to take He's got to get the veterans there that he could sit out for the entire year and have the younger guys be strong enough to be able to handle the team so that when they make it to the playoffs, he brings back all the veterans and they can actually make a cup run. That's how the NHL is run right now. It's too odd and weird how they do that. And until they close that loophole, it's going to be done that way. So I think that he's just he's stuck in a bad situation there. But I would say look for it in 2 to 3 years. You look for Detroit and look for Philadelphia to both be back in the mix and be running the league for about the next 15 years. If the Flyers don't let Comcast do what Comcast does, which is screw it up.
All right, guys.
Yeah, good cable, though.
You heard it here first. That is our time. Oh, my goodness. What a show. Thank you so much for JTRAIN, Keith Angle, who were on earlier, Pags dropping in and bringing all the energy, and, of course, BSTRILLA holding us down. So lovely every week. Thank you, everybody, for all the comments, the disagreements, the abominations that you have spit through these comments, the likes, the loves, and all that. That's what keeps us going. We hope everyone has an amazing week.
You should follow me, Broski Bear, if you want to talk some more smack.
Broski, 1975, that's the year I was born, Broski. We wish everybody a great Sunday, and thank you guys so much, and we're signing off for now.
You're watching National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasts, 70 shows, and a 3.5-star rating on Roku TV.